Hi, guys. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Black to Business podcast. I have with me my lovely guest, Drake Reaux. He is the founder of Inflc Media, which is a full service agency helping people and brands find their social media voice and build their businesses and brands. And he most recently acquired Dapper Deals Club LLC, which is an online store that provides quality products to those who enjoy looking affluent at reasonable prices. So thank you so much, Drake, for joining us on today. So how did you go from selling CDs to entrepreneurship?
Well, I guess, the whole LimeWire business, if you will, kind of gave me a taste of blood in my mouth. And it was very exhilarating, something that I found that I was passionate about, and it held my attention. So a couple of years kind of transpired after that. The LimeWire business lasted from 7th and 8th grade.
So you were actually just a little bit about the CD. So you were actually selling CDs to the people in your class. What was that like?
Well, yeah. So I actually went through and developed or identified a niche, which I didn't realize that was what I was doing at that point in time. But the way I identified the niche was I looked at myself and audited my own behavior, and I realized, man, me and all my boys that are playing basketball and football and running track throughout each season of the year, of the school year, we're carrying around 10 different CDs to only listen to 2 to 3 different songs on each one of those CDs. Why is it that, with LimeWire being introduced around that time, why can't I just go and get some blank CDs and tell everybody, hey, give me your list, your playlist that you want, and I'll go and I'll take that and put all the songs that you want to actually listen to on one CD. And so all of the athletes basically came to me for their pregame listening enjoyment, if you will.
The ultimate hustle. The ultimate hustle.
And so freshman through my junior year, I really wasn't doing anything too much in terms of entrepreneurship. But luckily, one of our neighbors had approached my dad. We had just moved into the community a couple years before. And he approached my dad, saying, hey, check out this network marketing company. And my mom and dad had dabbled in network marketing previously with Amway, probably 10, 15 years prior to. And my dad had just retired, from the military. So at that point in time in his life, he was really on quote unquote chill mode. And he turned down the opportunity, but said, hey, why don't you talk to my son about it? And so the guy who approached him approached me and basically laid out all the details, same details that he laid out in front of my dad. And I thought it was a great opportunity. And my dad had kind of gave me some encouragement in that direction. And so that's when I said, you know what, I'm gonna take the shot and see if this opportunity is going to do what the LimeWire business did for me as well. Emotionally, I think that was the main drive for that. And so then I jumped in and I started learning from what I like to call the old heads, and they basically kind of started teaching me how to market in that space with traditional marketing methods. It was something that gave me the same fervor that I got out of playing basketball or being on the football field or running track. And so it just felt right. And so I jumped into it, caught backlash from my girlfriend at the time. She was like, this is the stupidest idea ever. It crushed me. And I was so thankful for that experience, or I am so thankful for that experience now. Mm-hmm. And my dad had kind of known what was going on too. My dad has always taken the approach of setting you up for lessons and then being hands off so you can learn it the way you want to. Right. But after being removed from that situation, I was so grateful because that let me understand, how to deal with rejection within inside of this space of entrepreneurship, which is almost an everyday type of thing. And so moved on, went to college and got inside of Baylor University. And I just found myself for the whole first year really not doing any of my work, but, recruiting college kids to come to weekly hotel meetings about a business opportunity. And so I think that was a cornerstone of me learning how to build a team. And
what business opportunity was this?
So that was with Ignite. It's a network marketing company that basically deals with the deregulation of energy. Yeah, so got into that and realized, really quickly that the way in which business was being done was kind of being changed. And so I think that was the first time in which I started to try to leverage the internet to kind of build a business. And so
this is mid 2009, early 2010, while I'm, using Facebook to transact business. And I had no idea at the time that that's basically what I was doing and that that's what I would end up doing.
Right.
Now I realized, like, I think going through that experience with network marketing that first year of college made me realize that I didn't want to be in that space.
Right.
And so that's when I decided, okay, let me just take a step back and do something I know I'm completely confident doing and I'm super passionate about. And that was, going to the military. Every man in my family, besides one that I know of, has served in the military for some amount of time. And so I went there, and that's what set me up to go into entrepreneurship head on.
And so what year was this? Was this in the middle of school, college? Like, what year were you in at this point when you decided to go into the military?
That was December of 2010 that I enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Okay. So then you go into the Marine Corps, and then you're doing your business at the same time. Like, what got you to Influence Media?
Sure. So actually, when I went to the Marine Corps, I had stopped building any businesses. What got me to Influence Media was after having gained the confidence to kind of be like, okay, I can handle these situations, which was all in due part to, my experience in the Marine Corps and the values that I got out of there. I decided, okay, social media was becoming more of a thing as I was in the Marine Corps. So that's when Instagram comes about. And then I realized, okay, these are basically just channels of communication that are streamlined. And that's all that I feel that, business really is just, communicating through different deals and different experiences with, team members, things of that nature. And so I was like, you know what? I think I am at a place where I feel confident enough in what I'm able to produce with inside of the marketplace. And so I'm going to start this social media agency. And so that was December 2nd of 2014.
Right. And I want to kind of back up just a little bit because I know for some people, they're kind of going through a similar journey or maybe not, or something that they thought about. But you were in school and then you decided to go into the Marine Corps, but then you're doing having a successful business. So I want to kind of talk about your thoughts on having a formal education linked with business, and, why do you feel, if it was, or what some things you learned from, doing the route that you did?
Sure. So me and my dad actually disagree on this all the time, and it's funny. It's a unique conversation. I personally don't feel that I took anything outside of Baylor University that applies to what I do what I see myself having to do on a daily basis, and it's almost the reason why. It was the antithesis for me to kind of go a different route. It was the catalyst for me to go a different route because I saw what was happening. I saw, people who were graduating before me, 2 and 3 years before me, and what that was resulting in majority of the time. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying you can't go to school and be successful. Obviously, that it's necessary if you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor or anything of that nature. But I don't think entrepreneurship can be taught in school. I think it takes a very self-aware person and one that can deal with experiences that are not controlled, because I don't think there's so many different variables that you deal with on a daily basis that just that don't present themselves in college, I feel like.
Right.
And so for me personally, I didn't think that it served me. I think self-education is what set me up for a position of success.
So talk a little bit about self-education. So with you wanting to make that decision, like, how did you go about educating yourself on, starting? I know you had some experience before, but this is a different ball field when you're just doing solely entrepreneurship. So what are some of the first steps that you take? Did you go to a small business center? You had a mentor, or how did you prepare?
Well, the first step that I took was becoming obsessed, which I think sounds so simple, but is so frequently overlooked, right? Like in anything that you're going to be successful at, you have to look at the process of success. And, for most people, I'd say, look at the Michael Jordans, the Steve Jobs, the Grant Cardones of the world. It's because they're obsessed, right? And when you put yourself in that position, then you almost place yourself at a point of leverage that the next step is going to be failure, because that's how you're going to learn the things that you don't know just yet. And that's exactly what I did is, I would say that I still, I read books, of course. I listen to podcasts every now and then. But for the majority, it's just me being aware and keeping track of different experiences and then testing against those and always tweaking my approach and my processes.
How did you recently fail? And what was that like for you?
Yeah. Okay. So upon initiation of the business, I actually didn't know anything about business structure and I didn't know anything about business taxes. So for the first 2 years, I didn't report any business taxes. Now, of course, in the state of Texas, you only have to report if you have revenue over $1 million. So, you still have to report. However, you don't show any income, right? Like what you do is basically you send in a no tax due report. I didn't know that. And so for 2 years, I didn't report that or didn't send in that report. And I had to pay a fine of like $100 or something like that.
Right.
And that's, super small scale, but it is an example of an experience where it's okay to fail at things and then find out where you've, fucked up and then just recover from it and move forward smartly going forward.
And so I guess the question, of course, would be with the things that you've learned, would you say like for people who are going to conferences, they're looking at, reading podcasts, looking at YouTube, like what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like it's information overload, or just taking bits and pieces? What are your thoughts on that?
I find that the majority could do so much better for themselves if they err on the side of just taking action.
That's good.
Right? Because what happens is a lot of times we neglect our own ability before we even test our ability. And so how do we know that we don't know how to do something just intrinsically or naturally, right? We've never placed ourselves in that position. I do think it's helpful, however, to definitely, don't recreate the wheel. Try to learn the things that are set in place up to the point that they've been successful. But then once you get to that point in which, that timeline or that time frame is not defined, it could take you 3 days to get to that point, to where it's just the ultimatum or the societal standard sits. But then what has to happen after that? I think it's just a matter of self-perception. Like, where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself contributing to the space? And at what magnitude? Do you see yourself being the innovator of your space? And if you don't, then you shouldn't be in business, right? Like, if you don't think that you need to be in business because nobody else can do it better than you, then don't be in business. Don't be doing that thing, because then that's not your talent. That's not your gift.
Right.
Yeah. So the way to stay away from the confusion of knowing should I or should I not do one thing is assess your initial self-perception of yourself doing that thing. If you don't think that you are the best at that thing or on the path to becoming the best at doing that thing, then don't step into that thing. It's somewhere else for you.
That's good. That is good. And so I guess talk a little bit about just going into entrepreneurship full time, like the fact that how did you get your first client, and were there any kind of lifestyle changes that you had to make before you took that leap?
Yeah. So I guess we'll start with the lifestyle change because that came first. Definitely was a major cutback right before I went into entrepreneurship head first. Or full, completely. And upon, getting out of the Marine Corps, I did almost a year in telecom engineering, in which I was lucky and blessed enough to, make $42 an hour, which equated to, about $150,000 that year. That was a completely new experience for me. I hadn't experienced life at that level. But then when you go into entrepreneurship, it's not just you show up for this amount of time and you're guaranteed this much pay for these many hours. Not only that, even though starting out as, I wasn't an agency in the beginning, I was more so just a social media manager, a self-employed social media manager. There's really no overhead there. There's still, startup costs and things of this nature. And every dollar counts at that moment in time. Hell, I'd say even now, every dollar counts, but more so then because, there's a lot of things riding on it's just like, I would say this is the best analogy is it takes so much effort and energy to get the plane off the runway than what it does to keep it in the air. And that's exactly what I experienced is, had to pour everything. Like there was no life outside of entrepreneurship. So if that was the lifestyle change, that was the lifestyle change that I experienced. Getting my first client was fairly easy. Luckily, I decided to get an office space, which I think, looking back was kind of premature to say that it was just me. But they had somebody who had just moved into the same office space and they were starting up their business and knew that they needed marketing and whatnot. And so they became my initial first client and it went really well in terms of, my perception. Obviously, having some working knowledge of social media and success with inside of social media marketing, to say that we brought them from 2,000 followers on their Instagram account to 10,000 followers in about a month and a half. And then at least, 50 people every 2 weeks knocking down the doors of their DMs, trying to become a part of that course that they were offering, spoke volumes to the validation of my decision to become a social media manager and to scale out an agency.
Right. And so for instance, we have people who are, on the brink of, quitting maybe their full-time job and to go into entrepreneurship full-time. And, what advice would you give them about preparing to do so? Would you say like have a certain amount of savings or just do it? You'll fly if you jump.
I would say, for most people, probably best to be completely debt-free before you start a business. I was not that, and it made it more challenging. I don't know if it slowed me down any, but for my personality type, I think it served me in the sense that I love placing myself in the corner and having to push through that barrier that's standing in front of me to getting to the middle of the room and being that success story. So I think, again, it comes back to self-awareness and just knowing who and what you are and who and what you're willing to go through to get what you want.
So we kind of got a sense of who you are. Fearless, I would definitely say that, just based upon your stories and just how passionate you are about, what you believe in, which is awesome.
Thank you.
And let's just go into influence media. Like, what do you do for the people and how are you successful?
Definitely. So basically, we are positioned as a full service digital and social media agency. What that means is that we work with business brands, product brands, celebrities, or personal brands, and basically take over your social media accounts, create content, distribute that content on your behalf, engage with your audience on your behalf up to the point that we're knowledgeable of. And at the end of each month, provide you analytics reports on, the success of our social media efforts. Also included in that would be, scaling or creating and scaling out social media ad campaigns, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. We also have a creative department where, video being almost the best source of content in today's day and age, we can go and create video content for you. And then as well, kind of purpose that out in the way that it needs to be. So anything that you see online, basically, we can handle, and that's what we provide to our clients.
Right. So social media, I was just discussing this with someone recently, is like a full-time job. It takes time to, turn those clients those followers into clients. Do you have a team, and how big is your team?
Sure. So we do have a team, some of which we just outsource, some of which are interns, and then some of which, have just dedicated they've gone all in as well. I would say, considering all of those types of team members, we sit around somewhere, we float in between like 4 and 7 people. And it's a full-time job. I think even just keeping up with the progression of social media is a full-time job within inside of itself. And so kind of baffles me is when, people who have positioned themselves as, providers of other kinds of services or products, when they kind of like take this on as well, it's just like, what's practical? Look at what's practical as a business owner, especially as a business owner that's not providing marketing services to other people as your point of sale. So yeah, that's kind of where my idea on that.
So you take over, for instance, I guess with social media. So you would take over someone's social media platforms for a month, or what's the time period like?
Right. So basically our contracts start at like 6 months. And the reason why is because the time in which it takes to actually see a substantial increase or return on your efforts inside of, or your investment inside of social media takes about 6 months. I have had instances where, I had a photo booth service come to me and they wanted to drop down their cost of acquisition. They told me that they were on using Google AdWords platform and they were spending about $400 per month. From that, they were getting about 1,000 views, 27 leads, and 7 to 8 sales. And so what I said, my suggestion was, okay, let's transfer you over to the Facebook ad platform. It provides a better capability. There's, less marketers are using it, so it's less competition, less crowded. And so within the matter of 2 days, we actually went down from a $400 per month ad budget to only $300. Or sorry, $500 to $400. So we dropped down $100 worth of ad spend. And then within 2 days, we had about 17,000 leads, 27 sales within a matter of 2 days, and dropped the cost of acquisition down from $62.50 to 32 cents per sale. When you're looking at actual data, that speaks volumes. To drop the cost of acquisition down by that much, and to increase the brand awareness by that much for such a cheap price. And that's my ultimate. This is the biggest thing that's pissing me off at this moment in time inside of the marketplace, is that you've got the Fortune 500 companies that we compete with, as small businesses and mid-level businesses that are slow to adjust. They're the Walmarts of today in terms of, their ability to adjust and move in a different way. Right now, they're spending $80 billion on radio ads, commercial ads, TV, so on and so forth, in which we've known has gone down and decreased in viewership. Right. I'm pretty sure when you're driving in your car, your head, your passenger's head is probably not looking at a billboard. It's probably in their phone or their tablet. 9 times out of 10, the driver's head is probably in their phone. So, be careful. Anyway, so it just, it provides a unique opportunity in the sense that there's not a lot of, it's just like a stock. Because not a lot of people are purchasing this stock, the cost of it is low. Buy it now. Buy your share of the marketplace's attention on social media because it's so cheap. However, the value of it is so rich because we walk around on a daily basis with our heads in our phones for 10 hours out of 24 hours out of the day. So that's where if there was an overview or of the narrative, that would be it. It's that you as a small business owner or a mid-sized level business need to use that to your advantage. That is your leverage to be able to adjust at a faster pace. And I would say you haven't made it yet. You're not a Fortune 500 company. You haven't made it. So with that being said, you probably don't have the, stringent culture ingrained inside of your business just yet. So take that and move to what you see becoming valuable here now in the present, which I would say it's already upon us, but also even more valuable in the future.
And so I guess another would be, so say I'm a small business, mid-sized company, and I come to you and saying, I need help. What are some of the first things that you're going to look at, and what is that relationship like after the 6 months?
Sure. So immediately upon working with any client, we go through what's called our phase 1, where we do a social media analysis and build out a custom strategy. What happens in that social media analysis is it's a period of 30 days. We basically use software to scrape all of your social media accounts to get a screenshot of what your social presence looks like right now. We also do that for your competitors or any competitors that we're able to identify for you as well. We look at those numbers and that data and kind of figure out what's the story behind those numbers, right? Like, why are these things being successful? Why is this piece of content better than this one? Why did this one get more engagement? So on and so forth. Coming up with that narrative kind of leads us into creating the custom strategy in which we say, hey, these are our suggestions. And we map out from A to Z in a very detailed manner what you should do in order to be successful with your social media efforts. At that point in time, you can either decide, one of 3 things that, one, this is great information. I think we can handle it. Thanks so much. In which we would say, thank you. Let us know if, we can do anything else to service you in the future. Or if you happen to know of anybody else that could benefit from this service, let us know. The second option would be, okay, we have a team in place. This information is great. Our team probably isn't up to speed on these methods or the understandings of this strategy. Can you come in and coach and consult us, whether that be remotely or on site? And then when we go into that. And then third and finally would be like, which is majority of the case, hey, this is great information. This can definitely impact our business and grow us to where we're looking to go. This is way too much for us to handle. Can you just come in and do it for us? In which that's when we get into, at minimum, a 6-month contract. We fulfill those deliverables through that 6 months. And then, upon completion of that contract, we come sit down with you and say, hey, what did you like? What did you not like? Do you want to continue on? If so, then, do we want to do 6 months or do we want to do a longer contract, in which longer contracts will obviously provide you different benefits? I think what matters most for business owners is that it's going to provide you a benefit in the terms of cost. You can probably get a discount for loyalty and all that good stuff. And then we just continue scaling. And ultimately, those are the type of clients that we want to work with, is the ones that don't see social media as just a quick fix. They see it as a religion for their business to live by, and a standard for them to upkeep, because that's what it is. It's really no different than building relationships, right? Back in the old days, where you'd have a mom and pop shop and you take 10 extra minutes outside of your day to talk to the customers and find out about their store, their life and their story, and how their family's doing, and so on and so forth. It's the same thing that's taking place today. It's just at scale because it's online and it's much more convenient and efficient.
So which platform would you say, based upon your experience, gives the clients the most leads or gives you the most clients to this day?
I would say it depends on what type of business you're talking about. Obviously, Instagram lends itself to visual brands or businesses. So, for instance, the second business that I own, which I know we're going to I guess this is a good segue.
Yes.
Dapper Deals Club is a fashion accessories brand, which Pinterest and Instagram lend itself to because it's all visual. I would say the social media agency lends itself to, or leans more so heavily on, Facebook and LinkedIn. It really just depends on which type of business. Obviously, I think the highest grossing, if we were able to kind of identify or quantify that ROI, would be Facebook right now, Instagram here shortly, because what's happening is we're moving into influencer marketing. Influencer marketing is just one segment of social media and of marketing in general, but it's going to be such a huge marketplace because you're going to be dealing with much more people's attention. That's the currency of today, is people's attention. So the more attention that is placed on these influencers and these celebrities and whatnot, the more money that's going to go into it.
And perfect segue. You have to tell us about Dapper Deals Club LLC. So please.
So almost to the year, almost to the date last year, me and a friend of mine acquired Dapper Deals Club. It was funny how it actually played out. He was bringing me to the airport to go to Miami for a couple days, and I told him, hey, stop me by this thrift shop really quickly so I can go pick up some swim trunks. I didn't have any swim trunks, and I'm going to South Beach, in a couple hours. And so we stopped in. It was his first time being at a thrift shop, and I was kind of teaching him the game. And so we did do that whole thing. He gets me to the airport. I fly off, and then I'm in Miami, a day or two later, and he hits me up, and he's like, hey, I came across this business. Some guy's trying to sell his business on Facebook, one of these Facebook groups that I'm in. I think we should attack it. It's a fashion accessories brand, and the brand is pretty dope, and it fits us and our lifestyle, and kind of, how entrepreneurs, you have to kind of still, you don't have to, but a lot of entrepreneurs like to still look the part as they are coming up for a cheap price. And so we put in our bid and we won. I think for us, it was a steal, and we've just been running with it ever since.
So talk a little bit about the bid. Is this on a certain platform, or, you don't have to go into real details, but this person posted it on Facebook?
Yeah, so it was a Facebook group. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was a Facebook group purposed for entrepreneurs. And so I don't think it was necessarily for, you to go sell a business or to find business opportunities. I know they do have groups out there like that, but this was just, he had, the guy who sold it to us was just like, well, this is a group of entrepreneurs. Why don't I just put it out there? I don't want it anymore. And so let me try to sell it.
And you're so how are you juggling both, and how is Dapper Deals doing currently?
Yeah, so it's quite a challenge. I would like to say that I thought upon, moving into acquiring Dapper Deals that the social media agency was at a period of, or had a solid enough foundation for me to move into something else. I think looking back on it, it probably was a little premature. I'm the type who, I do like to look at new things and flirt with different things, but, I'm going to stay committed once I commit to any one thing. So, still working on both. It's a challenge going back and forth and trying to manage, attention and whatnot. But I would say, for the viewers or for the audience today, make sure that you have whatever your main course is established, right? Like eat your main meal first, then move on to your desserts. Dapper Deals right now is back on the upswing. There was a period of time where we actually had to drop it. Both of us have businesses outside of Dapper Deals. And so I think it was just a little bit too much for us to chew at that moment in time. So I guess you could say that we fell into the age-old adage that we choked on trying to be great versus mediocrity. But at the end of the day, you want to be successful, right? So we took a break. We just touched base about a couple weeks ago, and now we're pouring back into it. So I guess I would say be on the lookout for Dapper Deals to reemerge.
Right. And briefly, I really want to talk about that because I think I see a lot of people, in your case, it's great that you're even saying, and being honest, I see people, they'll have a business and it's doing well, and then they'll have another business, and then they'll have another business. Some people feel that, they can do that, but, in a sense, I like what you said about eat the meal first and then the dessert. So what made you, what conclusion did you come to? Was it a tough decision for you? And when do you know it's time to pick Dapper Deals back up and, go with it full time?
Yeah, I think it's an intuition thing. Just like most things inside of entrepreneurship, there's some things that provide you data points in which you can say, okay, the data is, giving me the answer to my face. But in understanding, when you should allocate this amount of energy to this, or when this is going to get love over this, I think it's just a feel thing. And so having only been in, real entrepreneurship, owning my own business for, at that moment in time, like a year and a half when we were acquiring Dapper Deals, I'd only been a year and a half into the social media agency. And at that time, I was having a couple good back-to-back months. So it was almost like this false sense of security, right? And so I think if there was an indicator outside of just your own intuition, I would say that it would be whatever your main goal is that you set upon inception of that business. Once you hit it, then move on. But if you haven't hit it yet, stick with it until you get to that point.
Good. And have everything else written in your idea book.
Exactly. Don't lose sight of it.
Definitely. I think you're doing amazing things. And what's interesting, another point is that you're currently located in Texas. So I know Texas is growing and a lot of places of business are rising there. So what advice would you have? Because I think in a sense it's known, but not so known. And for those people who are in probably like the smaller areas, who feel like they have this great idea, but they need to be in New York City, they need to be in LA, they need to be in Atlanta, or they need to be in Dallas. And how do you feel that they can still be successful and capitalize on those smaller places that they are?
So I actually, on this topic, I kind of contradict myself or pull from both ends of the spectrum. One, I think that proximity is power, right? Like placing yourself in a position, obviously, if you want to be an actor or actress, it may help to, especially pre-internet era, it may help you to go out to Hollywood. But at the same time, I think that your location does not dictate your level of success. I think what is more important and most important is, you and the value that you bring to your idea, which most often comes down to the amount of work and hustle that you're willing to put into it. What are you willing to give of yourself or sacrifice of yourself for the sake of your idea being what it needs to be for other people? So if you are in a small place, a small town or whatnot, I almost feel no sympathy for you at this point, because we have the internet, we have social media, we have, a gateway that puts any and everybody, just about everybody, at your fingertips. So get off your ass and make it happen.
Straight, no chaser.
Yeah, none.
So Drake, you have to tell us about, you were recently telling me about the video reality series that you have going on. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's good. I think this is one of those intuition things, right? In the sense of, I had gotten to a point with the social media agency where I had done majority of the foundational things to, get to a certain point, and we just needed something new and fresh. And so I thought to kind of like leverage my personal brand and almost be a product of the product on display for the end consumer that I'm trying to target. So what I did is, I actually ran into my boy YT, who's my videographer, a few months ago by chance, and we kind of immediately connected, had great energy. And then I wanted to move into actually pushing out, content for myself, for my personal brand, and providing that bridge for people to connect with me personally. So we started a show, Drizzy Daily, hashtag Drizzy Daily. It airs on Facebook and YouTube. Right now, we're currently at about 1 to 1.5 episodes per week, and it's been going great. I've gotten a lot of great feedback. A lot of doors have opened up in terms of business, and even just outside of business, people just asking, like, hey, what can I do for you? Or thank you so much for pushing out this content. It's cool. It's entertaining. Thanks for. I think it all comes down to the internet is no different than the streets that we walk on a daily basis, right? There's the streets of the internet, and there's the streets of the city or the town that we live in, and the difference in your experience of that street is the experience that's provided to you along that walk, right? And so when I have my audience, the way that I view them is I see them as constituents walking along my street, and as they're walking, I want to provide them that beautiful tree to look at, or that amazing digital screen that's flashing the hottest Jay-Z or Beyonce song or video, right? Like I don't want the walk to be boring for them, and so that's why I came out with the show, to provide them a better experience every day that they wake up and they hop on their phone on Facebook or YouTube, to see the true, raw, uncut story of Drake Reaux as an entrepreneur.
So it's following your life as an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
I think it's great. Using the internet, and amazing. So kudos and congratulations to you. We'll definitely have to check that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, just to end it off with a couple of random questions. So what advice, based upon, like, this has been amazing. I'm sure the listeners have gained a lot of information, and you've put a lot of things into context for a lot of people. So what advice would you give your 23-year-old self?
Ooh, my 23-year-old self. Let me try to think back to what I was doing at 23. I would say be a lot more focused on finding out who I am. I think self-awareness, because I've been able to leverage it so much, and I still don't feel like I'm anywhere near at the level or capacity of maximizing it. But to see what it's been able to do for me thus far, I would have told myself to double down, triple down on the ability or the skill set. I think it's a skill set, developing the skill set of being aware of myself. I think it provides so much clarity to anything that happens outwardly, because you want, as the more self-aware that you become, you realize that a lot of things that happen to you don't actually happen to you, right? Like it's right. Some way or another, form or fashion, you have kind of played a role in it, and just to have that awareness that shows you where those dots connect. Looking back, I think is so, especially if you're talking 23 entrepreneur, is such a critical characteristic to have to be successful.
Definitely. So what would you say, in your experience, what are you most proudest of?
Man, I would say I'm most proud of my ability to handle adversity and to be resilient, like, step up when shit sucks. Like, you can't put it any other way, excuse my language, but, like, that feeling as an entrepreneur where it's like you can't connect because there's already so few of us, and there's so few of us that are committed in the way that in which we are. Especially at, talking about this age, I think it's obviously the age of entrepreneurship is definitely, decreasing, but I would say it's that ability to just commit to something and stay with it, even in spite of, what you think are your biggest supporters. Like, just go.
And speaking about, I guess I would definitely have to briefly touch on this is, the state of Black entrepreneurship. Like, what does that mean for you to be representing the Black community?
I like it and I don't like it. I like it. I don't like it in the sense that overall, at a macro level, entrepreneurship is being Hollywoodized, right? In the sense that there's a beautiful picture being told about it, like it's so glamorous, and it's almost it's not giving a real depiction of it. And I don't think that I had a real depiction or perspective of entrepreneurship and what it was going to be like until I got into it. But to, be over dramatic about the story of, you can show up in a hoodie and sell your tech company and be a millionaire and all this good stuff. Like, yes, there are those cases, but for the majority, that's not what's going to happen. That's not going to be the narrative that's told for you. So that portion of it, I don't like. The other portion that I don't like is, sometimes being caught up in, like, I think as an entrepreneur, you have to have a character to you, right? You have to be outspoken. You have to make yourself vulnerable, right? So that people can connect with you and your vision, whether that be clients or, the people on your team. Sometimes you can kind of fall into the category or bucket of, motivational guru, things of that nature. Motivation is necessary. It's necessary, but then also we can't neglect how necessary action is and doing and, all that good stuff. And so my fear is that my intention is that I stay away from that. In terms of what I love about being a representation of entrepreneurship is, one, I love the fact that I am a millennial Black entrepreneur who started with, no outside capital. Initially, when I got into the space, I tried to neglect the fact that, we don't have access to the resources, right? Or we don't have as much access to the resources, or that we don't have the history behind us to show us, the self characteristics that we need to have, the emotional IQ, or how to deal, how to submit your business taxes, each year. Some of those things I pride myself on saying it doesn't matter, on showing everybody that it doesn't matter, right? Like, we start where we start, and I think even more so now we're starting in a place of a better position than what we have in the past. And so I like that fact. I like that I had the ability to choose, and then I have chosen it, and that it's on display for people, especially with the help of social media now.
Definitely. And so what do you see, what does the future look like for Drake and Influence Media and Dapper Deals? What does it look like?
I don't know in terms of, any one thing. I can't nail it down, but I will say that it's bigger than this. It's bigger than this, and it's bigger and better. That I think each day I look at it on, micro and macro, and when I break it down into a micro perspective, I assess each day, and I'm like, okay, did we get better in just one area? If so, then we're on the right path. And one day we'll look up and then be able to say, okay, this is what 5 years looked like. But I don't want to limit what it can be or what it will be.
So we just definitely got deep, and that was great. I felt that. So, yeah. So what is one thing that people will be surprised to know about you?
Yeah, I would say it's that I don't know. I've put this out in other areas of my, my story and my content, but I would say that, it hasn't always been a story of success, right? It hasn't always been just, sunshine and rainbows. So, I actually was arrested, right? And I was kind of forced to leave the Marine Corps early with an other than honorable discharge. And I think a lot of times people, upon first, perception or, experience with me, they wouldn't gather that. And I don't know how they would respond. I don't know, I guess every individual responds differently when they find that out. But I've gotten to a place where that experience there, I would say, outside of the Marine Corps, rooted me inside of entrepreneurship and has allowed me to be confident in knowing that I'm around for the long term, that I'm not going anywhere, that my name will show up and so on and so forth. Again, I think it has backed me into that corner in a sense, but also placed me on that platform, on that stage where it's like, okay, that happened. Now you either show up or you make that your legacy. And I've chosen to do the opposite. So surprise.
Yeah, surprise. You heard it on Back to Business Podcast. So who would play you in a movie of your life?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would love to see I would love to see myself played out as Denzel Washington, or Denzel Washington played me out. I think everybody would. Denzel's such a great guy. But anybody else?
I think everyone would go see it because it's Denzel, but of course it's because it's about you. But
yeah, I hope that my story provided value and it wasn't just him playing it. But let's just roll with Denzel for now.
We'll roll with Denzel. That's a good choice. The greatest. GOAT. So, and lastly, Instagram or Snapchat? I think I know the answer to this one.
I personally like Snapchat, which you wouldn't think so because I'm such a visual. I love visuals. I love that creativity. I can't really draw or anything like that, but I'm able to kind of appreciate what can be told in a visual image. But the reason why I like Snapchat over Instagram is because, one, I like how Evan Smith kind of moves, the CEO of Snapchat. But then also, I just like how raw it is. It's just like, it forces you to just be real in front of the camera. Outside of the funny filters that they give you, there's no hiding who you are.
Now, you have to say, do you feel that Instagram, Netflix, and Snapchat will be blockbuster because of the Insta video, or no?
No, I think that they will both continue to stick around for the simple fact that there's a different native language to each platform, each video method, right? With Snapchat, it's you can only do what's happening, right? Outside of, if you're a Fortune 500 company that's been given the privilege to kind of put ads on there at this point, they have that video, which is scripted. But, the content that's going up on Snapchat is like, oh my gosh, this is happening right now. Instagram, you can go and you can put video that's, been edited, and things of that nature on there, as well as, the capability of Snapchat. But I think there's such a clear depiction, clear difference for them that they will both simultaneously exist and continue to grow in their own unique way.
So I had to hear that from you because I'm biased. I don't have a Snapchat.
Okay. Get back on it, or get on it, should I say, if you haven't been on it, please.
Someone took my name. I can't, the branding part. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I have my friends find out who has my name and tell them to give it. But and I just remember Vine and Instagram, how Vine went away, and so okay, so I'll take that from you.
All right, hold me to it.
And definitely, you have to tell the people where can they find you, social media, websites, how can they get in contact with you? How can they support?
Sure. I would appreciate that. All of my social media handles are at Drake Reaux. That's REAUX. Those are all of my personal handles.
Okay.
The social media website is www.inflcmedia.co. And then the fashion accessory store is www.dapperdealsclub.com.
Definitely. So please go support, get some more business tips or how to grow your brand, because I know I was taking notes on the side. So thank you so much for that.
Sure.
And anything else you want to leave the people with? Any last comments? Anything?
Yeah, I would say, because I know how it gets, right? Like entrepreneurship can be tough, especially when you don't have support systems. Even when you do have great support systems. And if there's any one thing that I could give to the people listening, it would be that I believe in them. I believe in you. I guess I can speak to you since you're listening. I believe in you. And just go out there and do it. Put the work in, and if you fail, you fail, and then you fail forwards, and just continue moving on from that. It's as simple as that. Don't make it too complicated. Just execute.
Well, Drake, thank you so much for joining us. I cannot wait. I'm excited for your journey, and I'm pretty sure that people will go support. And we are glad to have you. Always use us as a resource. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And of course, you can follow everything at Black to Business and visit us at blacktobusiness.com. So again, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.